And just before we get the video started, I want to tell you guys about a new app that I found that I really like here, and it's called Real Cappers. And if you go to the App Store, you go to the Google Play Store, you could find it. And basically what they're doing is they're trying to find all the best handicappers they can find. And I think they're going to branch into all sports, but currently they're just doing UFC. And they're putting all the predictions in one place where you can kind of see what all the real cappers, what percentages they are in the fight. So basically, if there's 10 people picking, 8 out of 10 picked Christian Rodriguez, it's going to be close to that 80% where it is now. So it's an easy way to go on the app. You can check the percentages of cappers that you respect, and you could look at the odds, see what the implied probability of win is based off the money line, and you could try to make a bet off that. So I think it's a very, very useful tool. And on top of that, anyone that goes on there, puts their picks on there, becomes a guy that gives really good predictions. People can buy your predictions on there. They could search your username and find your predictions. So you could also potentially benefit monetarily from joining the app if you do become one of the people that is one of the best predictors on this app. And it is going to grow. It's going to become branch into all sports. So it's good to have your name on there. It's good to be a part of a growing community, and I think that Real Cappers is something that's going to be here to stay. So definitely check out Real Cappers. Give them a download on the App Store, the Google Play Store, and you won't regret it. So Real Cappers app, definitely check it out. Yo, what's up, guys? We're back for another breakdown and predictions video. This week, I really like this card. It's UFC Vegas 81. It's headlined by Sodiq Yusuff and Edson Barboza, and I feel like this is a great betting card. I think there's a lot of underdogs that have a great chance to win. I think there's some great props. I already have 12 bets on this card, so it's going to be one of my biggest betting cards of the year for the UFC. And I think we're going to, pull a heist, man. I think we're going to rob the bookies this weekend. I'm pretty confident. We've won 4 straight UFC events, so hopefully we're going to keep that streak going. And I think that this week could be one of the biggest weeks of the year for bettings for me. So if you want to cash with me, if you want to be part of the community over there on patreon.com/MMAPredictionGuru, this is a great week to go over there and sign up, because I think that it's going to be one of the best weeks of the year, and I think we're going to make some pretty good money this week. So patreon.com/MMAPredictionGuru, that's definitely where you're going to want to be. There's other events this week too, like KSW, Cage Warriors, CFFC, so I'm going to be trying to look into those a little bit as well. But going into this video, just make sure to hit the like button. Let's put a comment down below, man. Let's try to get this video more in the algorithm. Just get over 150 likes. I would really appreciate it. Everyone put a comment down. Tell me, do you agree with my predictions? Do you disagree? Because I am going to be predicting some underdogs on this card. So interested to hear if you guys think I'm going to be correct or incorrect. I think that there's a lot of live dogs on this card here. But let's get in this first fight of the night. We got Ashley Yoder, and she's going to be taking on Emily Ducote. And Ashley Yoder, she's making a comeback to MMA. She took 2 years away from competition, and she's a mainstay in the UFC. I mean, she's been in the UFC since 2016. She hasn't had much success in terms of win-loss record. She's 3-7, but she's fought a lot of ranked fighters. She's been in close fights. She used to be in the top 15 at one point. She had split decision losses to Mackenzie Dern and Randa Marcos. So if she would have won those fights, she would have had 2 wins over 2 pretty good fighters that were ranked for a long time, and her record would have been even at 5-5. So it's not like she's been a terrible fighter in the UFC, but currently she's lost 2 in a row. She hasn't won since 2020. She's 35 years old, so she's coming towards the end too. And the reason for the layoff was due to injury and rehab, but I think she's also been able to train for a while at this point. She usually trains with Team Quest, which is a legendary old school gym, but for this camp she went and trained with Angela Hill, Jenna Bishop, and others in San Diego, where they have a lot of good female fighters. And I did see she did the Spartan Super earlier this year, which is like an extremely hard obstacle race. So she has to be in pretty sick shape, and she's had 14 weeks to prepare for this fight. I think Ducote has as well. So both of them had a very long camp. So we'll see how it goes for Yoder in a return here. But Emily Ducote, she has to get back in the win column. She lost 2 fights in a row. She garnered a lot of momentum. She won the Invicta FC title. She beat Jessica Panay in her debut, but then she took on ranked fighters in Angela Hill and Lupita Godinez, and they proved to be too much for her. Now she's going to be back in a similar matchup that she had in her debut with a long grappler who is also an experienced UFC veteran. And Ducote, she brings the same style every fight. She's a low-volume striker. She has clean offense. She flawed defensively, but very sharp with her jabs or 1-2s. She has heavy low kicks. She'll mix the target of her punches. She'll go to the body, but she doesn't really offer much on the feet outside of that. She doesn't possess much power. She did chew up Jessica Pene's lead leg and hurt her that way in her UFC debut, but with Yoder being southpaw, I'm not sure that's going to be there for her in this fight. I don't know if the leg kicks are going to be such a factor unless Ducote can go southpaw and throw those leg kicks that way. But Ducote doesn't move her head, and she relies on her vision and ability to kind of pull and land the sharp counters. And that cost her, though, because against good fighters who have feints or explosive fighters that can close the gap quickly, she's very hittable, and she's tough. She'll bite down, but she lacks the firepower to win in exchanges against a lot of girls. And Ducote is a former, I believe, college wrestler, but definitely, if not college, a good high school wrestler. And she's a good anti-wrestler, and she also has a decent double leg. I think that she should be able to stuff the takedowns of Yoder, but if I'm Ashley Yoder, one of the places I'm looking to take this fight is in the clinch. I mean, against Angela Hill and Jessica Penne, Ducote had a lot of knees in the clinch, and Ducote will try that blast double, like I said, but I doubt she wrestles here. This fight, she's going to want to try to keep it on the outside and strike. And Ashley Yoder, long southpaw, she's awkward. She tends to run a lot, stay way on the outside, use her jab or double jabs, and land the big left hand. And I think she has the power advantage, but her offense is just much slower, more sloppy. She could throw some sneaky head kicks. She throws those lead leg head kicks, front kicks, and she can be difficult to hit because of her height and her reach. And she has a great chin when she gets hit too, but sometimes she'll be a little off balance. She can kind of look hurt, and it can look bad to the judges. But in this matchup, she just needs to let go and make it a dogfight if she wants to win. She's more durable, and I think she has the power and offense to do some good work, but it's just if she can overcome the skill level of Ducote with the activity that she brings. She doesn't have to worry about the low kicks as much unless Cody can go southpaw. Because in her fight with Jinyu Frey, she did get her leg chopped down, but Jinyu is a southpaw, so that's a different style. And the clinch is also a big area I would emphasize for this fight, and I think it's smart that she went over and started working with Angela Hill, with Jessica Penne, those coaches, because they've already game planned twice for Ducote, so they should definitely have a good game plan for Ashley Yoder here. And hopefully she's been emphasizing that clinch offense. I don't really see Yoder's wrestling being effective here, but that doesn't mean she shouldn't shoot a couple times to try to keep Ducote honest. And depending on how Yoder looks coming off the layoff, I think she has life, and the number is really wide, but it's hard to pick a 35-year-old coming off a layoff straight up. So I'm going to pick Ducote to win via decision, but to me, this is a dog or pass fight, and I see a lot of people put in Ducote in parlays. I see a lot of people say Ducote's a lock or one of the easiest picks of the night, but personally, man, I would warn you guys, stay away from this fight. Don't parlay her up. Don't put big bets on Ducote, because I just don't trust her to throw a lot of volume. And Ashley Yoder's a dog. I mean, she's not going to, unless she's aged overnight, she's not going to just roll over in this fight. So I don't think it's the kind of far-fetched thing in the world to see Yoder win this fight. So for me, it's a dog or pass. But like I said, I'm going to pick Ducote to win the fight via decision. And all right, this is another fight on the card where I'm looking at the line and way more than the Yoder fight, because obviously Alateng's coming off a win. He's coming off a good performance, and he's been active, so you don't have as many worries with him. I think the line is way off. I mean, I don't understand why Gutierrez would be such a favorite. You look at AlatengHeili, and I could say, or people could say that are very heavily on Gutierrez, that if you go back, you watch his fight with Casey Kenny. Casey Kenny was able to go southpaw, use those round kicks to the body, to the head, kind of really nullify Alateng, keep him on the outside, and just dominate him easily. But Gutierrez, to me, he's not that type of kicker, even though he's a phenomenal kicker. He mostly kicks from orthodox. He will switch stance, but you don't see him switching stance to southpaw, sticking there for the whole entirety of a fight and spamming those left round kicks to the body and head like that. It's like he throws a lot of front kicks and a lot of leg kicks, and I don't see him kind of sitting down, wanting to sit in the middle of the pocket and put the power on those round kicks to the body and then try to land those check hooks like Kenny was doing. I think he's going to do what he always does, which is kind of touch and go, striking, skirting around the cage, trying to use those leg kicks, and then trying to time and snipe with his hands or a spinning attack or a knee or something like that, a dynamic strike. But he's a low-volume guy. I think that his chin is a little suspect himself. We see him get rocked, hurt in fights. He got dropped by Munoz. And one of the things that he struggles with is that lead hook, the left hook over the top. And one of Alateng's best punches is that left hook. So I think that Alateng definitely has a lot of paths to victory. I mean, you look at Pedro Munoz's fight with Chris Gutierrez. He beat him with good feints, good forward pressure, a nice left hook, and the big right hand. And he just kind of outworked him. And you watch AlatengHeili's last fight with Chad and Helliger, and he did the very similar thing. You know, he pressured. Good job with the feints, came with the left hook, came with the right hand. He's a very durable guy, and he's going to bring the volume. And one thing about this fight is it is short notice for both guys. And Heili, though, he was training to fight Hani Yaya, and Chris Gutierrez was training to fight Montel Jackson. So these guys are fighting totally different styles than what they were originally supposed to fight. And Montel Jackson's also kind of a low-volume striker, and I think that would have been an easier matchup, even though he's a higher-level fighter than AlatengHeili, because Heili is going to bring the pressure. And one thing, if he's been training for Hani Yaya, you know he's going to be probably in great shape because he's been doing a lot of wrestling, a lot of grappling, and he could maybe take down Gutierrez or sneak a takedown or two in there in a close fight to win a decision. So I just don't understand this line. You look at Chris Gutierrez, a lot of his fights, I think he has 5 split decisions. He has a draw in the UFC, so it's like a lot of this guy's fights are really close. How can you justify lining him at minus 400? So just off that alone, I got to go with AlatengHeili to win this one, and I'm going to say he wins it via decision. And continuing through the card, we got this next fight with Irina Alekseeva. She's taking on Melissa Dixon. And Russian Ronda, Irina Alekseeva, she announced herself to UFC fans in a big way in her UFC debut in April. Her first impression maybe wasn't the best with missing weight by 4 pounds, but she quickly made everyone forget that weight miss with the first round knee bar finish, and she was a sizable underdog going in the fight. She was coming off a long layoff, but none of that seemed to matter, and she's marketable in terms of her nickname, her personality, being a finisher. So if she can get 2 wins in a row, she'll probably get a chance to break into the rankings in her next fight. And Melissa Dixon, she's making her UFC debut Saturday night. She's looking to run her record to 6-0. 32-year-old fighter. She's fighting out of England. It's going to be her first fight in the United States, first fight outside of Europe. I'm not sure how Dixon was really given this opportunity because she hasn't fought in 11 months. Her last fight early this year was canceled due to Dixon botching the weight cut. And so I'm not sure how she got this chance, but good for her. And she's fought her last 3 fights for Aries FC, which is a respectable promotion. She beat a 7-0 fighter her last outing. She's beaten an Olympic judoka before, so she's had some good victories under her belt. And you look at how these girls match up with Irina Alekseeva. She's big for the weight class. She has a long build, and she's a finisher. She's a decent grappler, opportunistic in the stand-up, and isn't really the best, but she'll throw some sloppy kicks out there, body and legs. She has no real setups or real ability to go first. Mainly wants to make fighters come to her where she looks for counters. She'll counter with hooks and overhands, and she has some power. She's dangerous. She can land in the first round, but it does seem like she slows down majorly when she's forced to strike and can't get the takedown. And she does a lot of strange things too. Like she'll turn her back or kind of do these odd movements in the cage, try to bait her opponents to come to her and then try to kind of land counters. But as she becomes slower and more tired, it just looks dumb because she gets hit, it's ineffective, and very hittable fighter, very susceptible to leg kicks, and her grappling is her bread and butter. She's physical in the clinch. Her entries to get the takedown are not that good, but when she can get there, she has good ability to get the fights to the mat with her judo. She has accurate and aggressive ground and pound in the top position. She has good submission game. We saw in her last fight, she hit that knee bar. She has one other submission win, and I haven't seen much of her on her back or on top for elongated periods of time, really, though. But she has shown that she could finish the fight with ground and pound and with submissions quickly. And Melissa Dixon, she's a well-rounded fighter. She's a pressure fighter. She has good boxing, and she has that ability and mentality to dig in and brawl. In this fight, she has to fight that urge to brawl, throw leg kicks, look to make Alekseeva pay by landing first and landing last, not really getting sucked into that chaos. After about 7 minutes, I think Dixon will have a big edge cardio-wise, and the striking will be easier with less danger coming from Alekseeva. And defensively, though, Dixon early is hittable, and it gives Alekseeva a chance in that first round, but she has a chin. She's never been finished. She was getting lit up early in her last fight. She got dropped, but she kept her composure and then got the finish. And I think this fight, if Dixon can get past the first round, it's going to be hers to lose, but there's danger early. And with Dixon, she's a good wrestler. She has nice takedowns against the cage, good scrambling ability. Her double legs and her clinch game are on point and very strong. Like I said at the top of the video, she was able to defeat Rizlan Zouak and outmuscle her in the clinch. And Zouak is a Olympic judoka, so that was very impressive. And when Dixon can get on top, she has good control. She's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu. I think she can defend submissions, land ground and pound, do well on top. Very good back takes, back control. And her cardio is on point. She definitely has the edge in the cardio. If she could put aside the traveling to the United States, it being her UFC debut, the layoff, and she does well on the scales this time, then she should do well. I think Dixon may struggle early, but I think she's going to outlast Alekseeva and win via third round TKO. So give me Melissa Dixon to get the victory in this fight via third round TKO. And this next fight, I'm not going to have a very big breakdown on this one. I think kind of everyone knows what's the deal with this fight. Terrance McKinney, he's up and down in the UFC 4-3, but whenever he's got an opponent like this, he's been able to go in there and just beat him in the first round, Terrance McKinney style, like he's gotten all his wins in his entire career pretty much. And Brendon Marotte, he's making his debut here. He's a short notice opponent. He trains with the New England Cartel, so he has a good gym behind him. But he's been fighting primarily these low-level guys. And style-wise, I just don't think it's a good fight for him. I mean, Marotte, he's a good striker, but he holds his hands low, and he tries to feint, fake, pull counter. He's pretty slick, but he's hittable, and Terrance McKinney isn't the guy to be hittable against. And his wrestling and grappling, Marotte, aren't the best either. He hasn't been finished, and he has cardio and toughness, which are weaknesses for McKinney. So it's like when you see McKinney at this big of a favorite price tag, it's first round or bust really as a pick and a predict, or as a pick and a bet, because he's not really shown that ability to win after the first round very often. But I mean, man, I think he's going to likely steamroll this man in the first round with his pressure, straights, overhands, powers, aggression. I think he can even get a takedown and get the submission win if he wants to. And I just think that's what it is. I mean, I feel like that's why McKinney's minus 500. And Marotte's short notice. I just don't believe he's going to bring much to the table here. So I think McKinney's going to get the job done pretty easily. And I'll say he wins via first round KO, TKO. And this next fight, I'm pretty confident on my prediction with Tainara Lisboa here over Ravena Oliveira. Oliveira, she is making her debut, 26 years old. So she is 6 years younger, which is pretty significant. But the level of competition, just the experience overall, I think is vastly on the side of Lisboa. Lisboa is still kind of young in her MMA career. She has the same amount of fights as Oliveira does, but she obviously performed in her UFC debut, got the finish, and she has a career in kickboxing and Muay Thai, and I think that she's translated well into MMA as well. I think her striking looks really clean. She's athletic. And Oliveira, her striking looked kind of messy to me. I mean, she seems sloppy, bad footwork, kind of a girl that wants to dig in and throw bombs. She seemed like she had some power and some decent kicks. And then she wanted to clinch you, try to get you down, but her wrestling seemed bad. And she looked bad off of her back. When she got on top against certain girls, it looked like she was pretty solid, but I wasn't overall that impressed with Oliveira. A lot of her fights have been early fights where they finished quick, and I did see her give her back, get submitted with the rear naked choke really easily. It was a fight that was a while back, but I wasn't able to find too many fights of Oliveira, so it's kind of what I got to go off of. And with Lisboa, I just think she's the much more technical striker. She's going to embrace the fact that Oliveira wants to dig in and get into a war, and I think she's better on the mat and on the ground too. I think she showed against Jessica Rose Clark that she can grapple fairly well. Her clinch game should have a big advantage there. Just overall footwork, fluidity. And I think Lisboa is going to be able to get this one done inside the distance. So I'll say Lisboa wins in the second round via TKO or submission. In this next fight, man, we got a really intriguing fight right here with Darren Elkins. He's taking on TJ Brown. And Darren Elkins, he's a guy that's basically a legend in the UFC. He might not be someone that's going to be in the UFC Hall of Fame or anything like that, but he has quite a few records. He's been able to maximize everything that he's brought, his physicality, his athleticism, his fighting capabilities, and stay in the UFC for an extremely long time and be really successful, beat a lot of guys that probably he shouldn't have beaten, and he's still doing it even to this day. He is coming off the loss to Jonathan Pierce, but I thought he performed well in that fight. I thought it was a lot more competitive than people probably assumed, even though Pierce kind of won by a fairly wide margin. He didn't finish Elkins. He didn't hurt Elkins badly really at many points. He didn't dominate him, and Elkins was able to land quite a few strikes of his own, and it was a fairly competitive striking fight. And he was able to look really good against Tristan Connolly. Did have that bad loss to Cub Swanson, but I think that would have happened at probably any point in their careers. It's just a bad stylistic matchup with Swanson having that extremely good movement, footwork, and speed, and just being so explosive and dynamic when he closes that distance. It's just a terrible matchup for Elkins, but he's getting a guy in TJ Brown who's been up and down in the UFC and been up and down in his career in general, and I feel like he's kind of one of these guys that's shown to be a little bit of a flake at times, where he could be winning a fight and then blow it, bad fight IQ. He could get tired and kind of give in to the pace and accept the loss. And those are the type of guys that you want to look at Darren Elkins and look hard at him for a pick and a bet when he's fighting a guy like that, because you know Elkins is rock solid. I mean, the guy, he's never going to bend or break, and you're going to have to really just beat him down to get him out of there, knock him unconscious, or just be extremely technical for 3 rounds. And TJ Brown, I think early he could start really well. I think he actually does against a lot of guys. You look at his fight with Bill Algeo, first round, he landed a lot of heavy shots, pressuring forward, being really aggressive. He was throwing some heavy calf kicks, 1-2s, and I think early on he's going to have a big speed advantage, big power advantage on Elkins. He's going to be able to walk him down and land a lot of heavy strikes. But that's, to me, not the style to beat Elkins, because I don't think TJ Brown's one of these guys with massive power. I mean, you've seen a majority of the opponents that he's fought in the UFC have been able to hold up against his power just fine. He hasn't finished that many guys with strikes, and Elkins is, an unkillable guy. I don't think TJ's going to be able to really hurt him with strikes too badly. I mean, he might be able to overwhelm him at certain points, but I just don't see him getting him out of there with strikes early is my main point. And when TJ gets tired, Elkins is going to start to pick it up, and Elkins is going to be shooting a lot. We've seen TJ lose in wrestling fights. We've seen him get submitted before. And if this becomes a wrestling match, I know Elkins has a lot better wrestling. And even on the feet, I think as the fight goes on, I think Elkins can land more, be more successful there. And I just don't trust TJ Brown over 3 rounds to beat a guy like Darren Elkins. I think Darren Elkins can break him and get a submission at some point in the fight, or at least win the decision. I just feel like TJ is going to start fast, but he's going to end up making some mistakes. Elkins get to capitalize on those mistakes, drain TJ, get him tired, and then end up getting the finish or the decision wins. So I'm going to pick Elkins via submission in this fight, and I think he's going to get the job done. This next fight, this is a great fight between 2 young guys, 2 guys that are two of the better prospects in the bantamweight division and fighters that you're probably going to see in the UFC for years to come. Christian C-Rod Rodriguez, he just capitalized on the biggest moment of his career in his last fight. He picked up his second UFC victory, and he beat Raul Rosas Jr. on a UFC pay-per-view, a guy that had a lot of hype. And now he's taking on Cameron Saaiman, who is coming off wins in the UFC. He's undefeated, and he looks very impressive as well. He's got Dricus du Plessis as his teammate, so he has a lot of hype behind him with South Africa. And these guys are going to scrap, man. I think it's going to be a really good fight. You look at how they match up in the stand-up. C-Rod, he is the more technical striker. He's the guy that is a little bit more, I believe, cleaner. He stands tall. He's really solid with his in and out movement. He could throw real slick strikes right down the middle, 1-2 straight punches, attacks the body. He will throw some leg kicks. He's not the most active kicker, though. I don't think he's as active with his kicks as I would like him to be. And you look at Cameron Saaiman, I think Saaiman is definitely the more powerful guy, and I think he is more active and just a little bit more dynamic on the feet. Like, he'll throw these power hooks, he'll throw these weird combos. I think that he's a little bit more explosive, but he can get out of position a little bit more, and if Rodriguez could cut the cage off, make it more of an inside technical striking boxing type of fight, I think he could make Saaiman pay for a lot of mistakes. But I think Saaiman has the ability to hurt Rodriguez at certain points, and if he gives Saaiman space, I think the kicks are going to be more active and a little bit harder and cleaner for Saaiman, and I think he could have the more dynamic knockout ability and just kind of combination punching too. So makes the striking close. And as far as the wrestling and the grappling goes, I think that if anyone pushes the wrestling, it's going to be Saaiman. And Rodriguez has shown that he's a really good scrambling guy. He has real nice front chokes. But Saaiman, to me, is the more physically strong fighter of the two. We saw when Raul Rosas was fresh, he was able to kind of bully Rodriguez a little bit, win that first round, take the back. And we saw Jonathan Pierce kind of beat him up for 3 rounds with the grappling. But obviously, Pierce was at 145. But I think Saaiman is the more physically strong guy, and I think that he's a great scrambler as well. I think he could win more of the scrambles, and I think that a different dynamic that he brings in comparison to Rosas is, one, I don't think he's going to gas, and two, I think he's going to be more adept and better with his ground and pound. I think he's going to throw more ground and pound, heavier ground and pound, and I think that he's just going to do more damage. I think C-Rod's going to have moments. I think he's going to look slick. I think he's going to have a good performance, but I think Saaiman is going to hit a couple takedowns. I think he's going to do some ground and pound damage. I think he's going to land some big strikes in the feet. He might bust up Rodriguez, and I think that he's just optically going to look like his work did a little more, and I think he's going to get the nod on the judges' scorecards. So give me Cameron Saaiman to win this fight via decision. And with this fight, I just broke it down a few weeks ago, so I'm not going to give a real in-depth breakdown again, but I think Chairez is the pick. I mean, I see people betting on Lacerda saying, if you watch that fight, I don't know how you could justify the odds for this fight, but I disagree, man. I feel like Lacerda, if he wins fights, it's usually through that explosiveness. It's usually through, being the guy that can land and catch his opponent clean early or get at that submission. I don't think he's going to become a technical guy that can win a decision with lay and pray or use, counter-striking. And I just feel like that's not his game. I think that shows a lack of confidence when he switches his style so much to become that way. And on the feet in that fight, I think we saw Chairez is in danger with the counters, but I think he's going to manage it. He's got that Mexican chin, and I think he's the significantly better striker. And Lacerda did take him down and was controlling him for a little bit, but we saw Chairez get back up to his feet, and it looked like Lacerda was getting tired, and then Chairez snatched the neck, and obviously the ref made a mistake there in stopping it early, and that's why we're having this rematch, and the fight was a no contest. But I just think he just messed up, but it would have happened. It was kind of inevitable that Chairez is going to finish him. I think Chairez is going to be able to come in here I think Lacerda is going to have that same type of game plan as before, but this time Chairez is going to be a little bit more confident. He's going to know the speed that Lacerda's coming with, know that he's definitely looking to wrestle, and I think Chairez is going to be able to get him out of there. I think he'll be able to submit him again. So, going to go with Edgar Chairez, and I'm pretty confident. I don't really understand why certain people are on Lacerda. I think that Chairez is this next fight. This is a short notice fight, but it's a great fight, man. With Andre Petroski taking on Michel Pereira, we got grappler versus striker matchup. Even though I think Pereira is also a pretty good grappler in his own right. We got Petroski's coming in on short notice for this fight, so that's something that's a big concern because he has had cardio issues in the past. And then with Pereira, we got a guy that Bosch's weight cut for Wonder Boy, which was the biggest fight of his career, blew that opportunity and got forced up to 185. So mentally, is he going to be in the right headspace, or is he going to be kind of bummed out that he lost that fight, overlook Petroski, or not show up? I mean, there's some question marks for both guys here in terms of how they're going to look in this fight, but I do like the move overall for Pereira up to 185. I think he was a gigantic 170. I think he's going to be pretty similar size to Petroski. I don't really think it's going to be a case where you see a guy forced up from 170 to 85 and he's going to look significantly smaller than the guy that he's fighting. I don't think that's going to be the case here. I think that Pereira is going to be a good-sized 185er as well. And it's kind of tough to break down this fight because, at least in recent years, we haven't seen Pereira go up against a wrestler or a grappler. And we've never seen in Petroski's entire career him go up against a dynamic striker like a Michel Pereira. So both these guys haven't seen the look from their opponent that often. But Pereira has way more experience. I mean, the guy has 4 times the amount of fights almost. And he definitely has had fights where guys have been shooting on his legs. He's facing a southpaw that likes to attack the single leg, has good back takes. Whereas Petroski has never fought someone with a striking style. Pereira throwing a lot of kicks, dynamic, really great movement. And I just don't like Petroski's striking, man. I feel like he's stiff, rigid. I thought he got outstruck by GM3, which is a really bad look. And you see like his reactions in certain fights to like he's parrying kicks, trying to catch kicks. He's not really doing the best in terms of evading flying knees and things like that against Wellington Turman, who's sent him up from a mile away, and Petroski's still almost getting hit with them. So Pereira, I think, is going to be a real tough guy to just take down. I mean, this is a guy that's farm strength. He's wrestling bulls and shit. Like, the guy is going to be, I think, tough to take down. I think he's going to have better cardio now that he doesn't have this big weight cut that he has to do. And I just don't think Petroski is going to be able to handle the striking very well. I think Petroski is going to struggle to get the takedown. I think he's going to look lost, and I think eventually he's going to find his way out of there with a knockout loss. So Pereira, I just think with all his experience, I think that Petroski is going to struggle to deal with that dynamic style, and I think Pereira is going to be just fine trying to deal with the style of Petroski. I think he's going to be confident that if he shuts down the takedowns, it's his fight to lose. And even if he has to get taken down in the first round, just try to maintain your gas tank. Don't be too worried about just jumping right back up to your feet if it's a struggle, or don't waste energy being super nervous or make a mistake and get submitted. Just stay calm and get back up to your feet for the next round and go back to work on the feet. And I think that Petroski is the one that's going to have more cardio issues coming in on short notice. So I think Pereira's going to get this one done via knockout. Man, we got a hell of a fight for this next fight. Jonathan Martinez taking on Adrian Yanez. This is a fight that I feel like should have been on UFC Noche, but shit, man. I mean, we're getting it now and definitely excited for this fight. 2 strikers, 2 guys that extremely fun to watch, and prospects that are kind of right outside that top 15, top 10 barrier, and they're trying to break their way in to fight those top guys. And we just saw Adrian Yanez actually fight one of those guys his last fight with Raw Font, suffered his first UFC loss, got pushed back, and now he's having to fight another prospect in Jonathan Martinez to prove that he needs to stop fighting these prospects and fight another guy like Rob Font. That was just an off night, and he's going to be back at the top. But Jonathan Martinez, he is 9-3 in the UFC, a really phenomenal record, and won 5 fights in a row. He separated himself from that upset loss to Davey Grant where he was knocked out, and now he's right around the top 10 himself. I mean, he's coming off some upset wins. He's coming off beating Nurmagomedov. He beat Cub Swanson, who's a legend in the game. So Martinez has been doing his thing, and he's been beating guys that people don't want to fight. Like, he fought that Georgian dude that I can't remember his name, but undefeated Georgian guy. He beat him. He beat Said Nurmagomedov, obviously. So he's been taking on these tough fights, and he's been doing well. And this is no different matchup. This is another real tough one. But, yeah, great fight stylistically. I mean, Adrian Yanez, you got a guy that's real slick boxing, and he's taking on a guy that's a real nice kicker. So it's going to be interesting. I mean, you look at Martinez, he's southpaw. He does a really good job manipulating distance, trying to land those pull counters with his hands, and then land a lot of kicks, calf kicks. I think in this fight, he needs to take a page out of his buddy's playbook, Chris Gutierrez, who is also fighting on this card. So they obviously have been training together quite often, I believe. And Medeiros just dominated on contender series as well. So Factory X has had a lot of guys getting ready recently. But I just feel like Martinez, he has more weapons to work with in this fight, and that's what he needs to do. I mean, he needs to take a page out of Gutierrez's book, in my opinion, because he needs to use a lot more movement. He doesn't need to kind of just try to control the center as much against Yanez, because Yanez is going to have the speed advantage, and if he can land clean on Martinez's chin, I think Martinez has kind of shown a susceptibility to getting hit clean. He doesn't have the greatest chin, in my opinion. But if he can stick and move and use those kicks, I think that he definitely is going to be able to have a lot of success. And another thing, the difference between Gutierrez and Martinez is a lot more willing, like I said, to kind of sit down, throw round kicks, control the center, and be a little bit more aggressive. And I think that's going to pay dividends in this fight as well. I feel like Yanez, he doesn't have the best kicking defense. You see that in certain fights, like his fight with Davey Grant, he kept parrying the body kicks and the front kicks. And if he does that against Martinez, man, he might get switch kick to the head, front kick to the face. And I think Martinez is just a lot slicker kicker. And Yanez, he's a counter striker. Like, I think to beat Martinez, you got to make it really ugly. You got to pressure. You got to throw combinations. And Yanez does have that ability, but it's just going to be if he's going to be able to get past the kicks before sustaining enough damage where he's not capable of doing it anymore, because that's not usually his style. He's not usually the guy that's going to come in, fight reckless like a Davey Grant and throw a lot of volume and be awkward and throw in like combinations. He wants to slip and rip off the jab. He wants to look for these clean 1-2 shot combinations where he's landing on the chin. He's not wasting anything. And if he does that in this fight, I just think Martinez is going to beat him on the numbers, because he's going to be more dynamic. He's going to be throwing kicks. He's going to be doing, in my opinion, a little bit more damage, because he's going to be able to be throwing the more harder weapons. But it's just, if Yanez does dig in there and make it a dogfight and touch Martinez's chin, I think he could have success. But another thing that I think Martinez could bring that no one's really talking about is what he brought in his last fight, and that's mixing in some grappling, pushing Yanez against the cage, maybe taking him down a time or two like he did against Said, because Yanez hasn't necessarily had that tested in a long time, and a lot of his previous losses have been through that. So personally, I just think that Martinez is the more dynamic striker, and I honestly think he could land a head kick knockout in this fight, but due to the most of his fights being decisions, I'm going to say it's a decision win. But Yanez, he's also coming off a knockout loss So I don't know exactly if he's going to be willing to have the game plan that I think he needs to have to beat Martinez. So that's why I'm going to pick Martinez to get the win. And up next here, we got Jennifer Maia taking on Viviane Araujo in the co-main event. And it's a fight between two fighters going in opposite directions in their career. Jennifer Maia, she's having a career renaissance of sorts, 2 consecutive victories. She got an upset win over Casey O'Neill. She snapped Marina Moros's 5 or 6 fight winning streak. And she's someone that if she can get her 3rd win here, she could kind of be back in the mix for a title shot, whereas Viviane Araujo, she's on the other side of the coin. She has lost 2 fights in a row. She hasn't won a fight in a year and a half. But you look at her 2 losses, one of them came to the current champion in Alekseeva. The other came to Amanda Ribas. So they aren't bad losses, but also on the other side of 35 at this point. Araujo, 36 years old. 2 losses in a row is not good. So a win for her is crucial here if she wants to continue her career in the UFC. And you look at how these girls match up. I mean, if you've been around the channel, you know that I'm a Jennifer Maia guy. I'm someone that picked Jennifer Maia and bet her in her last 2 fights. And I believe, gotten every single prediction that I've done on YouTube of Jennifer Maia correct. So I've done really well predicting her fights. And I feel like I got a good read on what she likes to do. And with Araujo, I think that I'm pretty good with her fights as well. So I have a good read on this fight, in my opinion. I think that, personally, you look at how this on the feet, I think Araujo early on the first round, she's going to be able to have some success. But she throws these wide strikes. She has nice heavy low kicks, but she doesn't keep her same volume, and just her speed and everything goes down because she's a 1.5 round fighter. And she has shown fights where she's been able to kind of muster up a little bit more cardio, but she always gets tired, and her chin is very questionable, man. I mean, she gets hurt in a lot of fights. It seems like her chin is going a little bit. And Maia has what she struggles with on the feet. I mean, she's sharp boxing. I think Maia has some of the best boxing in the division, right up there with a girl like Alexa Grasso. And Grasso got her jab going on Araujo. She got her straight punches going on Araujo, and really started beating Araujo up badly as the fight went on and just kind of picked her apart from the outside. And I think that Maia could do a very similar thing, stick and move, use the jab, use the straight right hand like she's been doing recently, and outstrike Araujo over 3 rounds pretty easily. But Araujo, I think if she wins this fight, it's going to be because she gets her wrestling going, takes down Maia, holds her down. And Maia's had some issues with that in the past. I mean, you saw the Valentina fight. That's how she lost. She lost to Liz Carmouche that way. She has a couple other losses in her career because of that. But I do think that Maia has improved her takedown offense and defense and just her overall athleticism pretty significantly. She's improved her get-ups. And I don't think that Araujo is going to be able to hold her down anymore. I think in previous years, maybe Araujo would be able to hold her down and win a boring decision in that manner. But with Jennifer Maia in 2023, I think that she's gotten better at getting back up to her feet. And I think she's going to be the girl in better shape. I think she's going to have the cleaner, sharper striking. And I see her kind of beating up Araujo down the stretch and getting the win here. So Jennifer Maia for me is the pick. And I think that she's going to get the job done. We got the main event here. We got Sodiq Yusuff. He's taking on Edson Barboza. And very, very good fight here. I like the matchmaking. It's a big step up for Sodiq Yusuff. He did fight Arnold Allen, so I don't think it's necessarily the best fighter that Yusuff has ever fought. I think Allen is probably a little bit better than Barboza is at this time in Barboza's career. But you look at everyone else that Sodiq Yusuff has fought, he hasn't really fought anyone. I mean, he fought Andre Fili. He has, who else has he fought? He has another decent victory, but he hasn't beaten anyone that you would consider a top 15 guy. Chairez, I guess if you want to say Chairez is top 15, or Fili, but those guys are kind of like fringe. They haven't been top 15 for the majority of their careers. Sodiq, if you look at it, he really hasn't beaten a top 15 fighter in his entire career. The one time he fought Arnold Allen, he took the loss. And this is going to be, his another chance for him to now win in a big spot, in a big main event, and kind of show that he is ready and he can't beat these top guys. But Edson Barboza, he is 39 years old, but he's kind of trying to say, I'm still here. If you look at him on social media, he's still in as good a shape as he's ever been. He looks incredible. And he just is coming off that gnarly knockout over Billy Q with the knee. So he's still getting victories in the UFC, still looking good. And he obviously is not where he used to be or probably ever going to threaten for the title again. But this is the type of guy that Edson Barboza usually eats up. Someone like a Sodiq Yusuff, a mid-tier guy, he's usually been able to beat these guys and send them back packing. Like you look at his wins over fighters like Shane Burgos, I think it's kind of a similar level opponent. Billy Q, like we just saw, Dan Hooker. So I think it's like Sodiq is in a little bit of danger in this fight. I mean, you look at how Sodiq fights too. He's a front foot striker, likes to come forward, hands high. He has good calf kicks, very fast, sharp striking. He has nice straight punches. He has power. I think that, either guy could definitely get the knockout here, but I feel like Edson is way more dynamic. He's going to be throwing more volume, and especially early. The only issue is I think if Edson can't get it done in the first round, first couple rounds, and Sodiq can land some strikes and do some damage, I don't know how Edson's going to hold up anymore, and I think Edson could slow down and get tired like we saw in the Giga fight. But I don't think Sodiq is going to be effective with his wrestling. Like certain people I've seen think he's going to be able to take down Barboza or hold him against the fence. I don't really think that's going to happen. I think that Sadiq's going to have to strike and use that front foot striking. He can't strike off the back foot. Like, it's not like he can strike like Giga struck with Edson where he's throwing kicks on the outside and pulling him into strikes and stuff. He doesn't have that ability. He doesn't have the length. He doesn't have the striking, wheelhouse to do that. And I think that, coming straight forward at Edson, especially when you're a guy that has a questionable chin too, like we've seen Yusuff get hurt in his fight with Gabriel Benitez. He got dropped by Arnold Allen. He has had other fights where you see him doing the chicken dance, things like that. He got knocked out in the past. It's a bad recipe in my opinion. I mean, I think that Edson is still sharp. He's still as powerful as ever. And you look at Sodiq Yusuff, he is a very hittable guy with strikes up the middle, knees. And he's going to be coming forward. He's going to be there to hit the whole time. His legs are going to get chewed up. I feel like Edson is the side on this one. It has to be a dog or pass. I mean, how could you go in there and say, oh, Sodiq Yusuff, he should be the favorite in a striking fight against Edson Barboza? Like, even if Barboza's 39 years old, I just don't think you could say that from what we've seen from Sodiq. I mean, I just don't see it. I mean, the guy's not a super hard matchup. Like, he's not someone that throws like a crazy amount of volume. He's a hittable guy, someone that has shown a weak chin. He doesn't have the greatest wrestling and grappling. And I'm a fan of Sodiq. I think he could beat a lot of guys. I think he comes really well conditioned. And if he can kind of survive a barrage, get Edson tired, wear him down, start landing clean, he is accurate, he could get Edson out of there too. So I think it's a close fight, but I just feel like it should be lying like 50-50. And I think Edson has a great chance to get the knockout here. So I'm going to pick Edson Barboza to win his second fight in a row and get the win over another one of these kind of mid-tier level guys. I think Sodiq Yusuff will be able to come back and do well in the future, but it's a big step up. He's going to be significantly smaller, and I think Edson's going to eat him up with the striking, man. I think Edson's going to get the job done. So there you have it, guys. That's the full card breakdown and predictions video for UFC Fight Night 81, UFC Vegas 81, UFC Fight Night Yusuff vs. Barboza. Thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you liked the video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Like I said at the beginning of this video, man, I'm really confident on my bets this week. I feel like we have a great slate to work with, and I got 12 bets so far currently, so it's one of my biggest slates of the year. I think we're going to end up winning a lot of money this week, so Patreon.com/MPredictionGuru is definitely going to be the place to be this week if you want to make some money. And besides that, man, hit the like button, put a comment down below. Do you agree with my picks? Do you think I'm going a little bit underdog crazy? Which underdogs do you think I have no chance to win that I picked? Do you think I'm spot on? Just let me know. Put some comments down below. I want a little bit more comment interaction. I'll reply to you guys. So please comment and like the video. Besides that, guys, thanks for always supporting, and I'm out.